Morning, and welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Congregation of Princeton, where in our open and welcoming community, we live our message of hope, love, justice, and joy. We extend a special welcome to our visitors. We're very happy that you've joined us this morning, and we'd love to get to know more about you and make sure that you have all the information that you'd like about our congregation. If you haven't already, please stop by the newcomer table just outside those back doors in Robinson Lounge, and we can add you to our e-lists and let you know about what's happening here. We'd love to invite you to everything. The very next thing is that there will be an Earth Ministry meeting after the service today in the John Murray Room to continue planning our congregation's eco efforts for the church year. All are welcome to join that meeting of the Earth Ministry here at UU Princeton. And also last Sunday, the Earth Ministry organized a team from our congregation to participate in Hopewell Township's clean sweep and roadside litter pickup. The group spent a few hours clearing along Route 31 and Hopewell Pennington Road, and through that work also earned a donation from Hopewell Township to our congregation for each volunteer who spent time doing that. There'll be another opportunity to join in the spring for another cleanup, so you can go to that meeting or just keep an eye out for that later on in the year if you're interested in participating. Also, however, this morning after worship, the All About UU Princeton program that is being put on by the Leadership Development and Nominating Committee, that's been postponed. The future date is to be announced. So keep an eye on your email and newsletter and everything. We'll let you know when we're going to have that. But the All About UU Princeton thing, if you're going to stay to that for that, that's postponed, but you can go to the Earth Ministry meeting. So there's always something to do. And lastly, you'll see in happenings that we can mark our calendars for October 26th to join us for our annual Trunk or Treat and Tacos Sunday. We have a regular Sunday service led by our young adult ministry. And then afterwards, we'll have a trunk or treat out there in the parking lot and we'll all eat tacos together. It's a wonderful Sunday of fellowship, all ages, your neighbors, everyone's welcome on October 26th here at UU Princeton. And now with open minds and loving hearts, with the ancestors' blessings and tomorrow's promise, let us worship together in peace and unity.
Yesterday, I was so clever, so I wanted to change the world. Today, I am wise, so I'm changing myself. Please join me in the unison affirmation in your order of service. The road to enlightenment is long and difficult, and you should try not to forget the snacks and the magazines.
Meditation this morning is a version of the metta meditation, the loving kindness meditation out of the Buddhist tradition. I invite you to settle into your seats, get nice and comfortable, let your eyes fall closed. And for a few moments, just focus on your breathing. Some nice deep breaths in and some nice full exhales out. A little deeper than usual, and a little more of an exhale than usual. And as you center into this space of peace and quietude, repeat to yourself, thinking of yourself, may I be well, may I be calm, may I be open, may I be whole. And now shift your focus to a loved one. Allow yourself a moment to see them in your mind's eye, someone you love. Notice their expressions. Hold them in compassion. And as you envision them, say to yourself, may you be well. May you be calm. May you be open. May you be whole. And now think of someone in your life, hold them in your mind that you see regularly but do not know well. It may be someone you know by sight but not by name, a relative stranger. Hold them in your mind and say, may you be well. May you be calm. May you be open. May you be whole. And now shift your focus to someone in your life with whom you have a difficult relationship, someone for whom it's difficult to hold compassion. Envisioning them in your mind, say to yourself, may you be well. May you be calm. May you be open. May you be whole. And now we shift our focus to all beings, extend feelings of kinship and friendship and compassion to all individuals and all of life. Holding the wide web of Gaia in our hearts and minds, we say, may we be well. May we be calm. May we be open. May we be whole. Now, in the silence of this shared space, we offer these, the prayers and meditations of our hearts. May it be so, and amen.
I'd like to share with you a poem by Rumi. Is going to be talking about enlightenment today, and you just probably can't pick up any poem where he doesn't talk about enlightenment in one way or another. So Rumi, um, he's cool. He says a lot of nice things. This poem is called "Put This Design in Your Carpet," and I think what he's saying here, I'm sure it's obvious, but just in case it isn't, is as you weave the tapestry of your life and who you are, that's your carpet. And here's just some ideas to throw into that carpet. Before I start, there's like a couple of lines I'd like to just draw your attention to. And one is called, as he goes on, he says here, the visible bowl of form contains food. The visible bowl of form. And form is like everything that we have, that we see, hear, taste, our five senses. That's what form is. And it says he says it contains food that's both nourishing and a source of heartburn. I mean, who can't relate to that? Another line that I really like is he talks about pitching, pitching his tent against the sky. And I thought about this line a little bit, and I'm thinking, well, our tent is where we live, our heart, and who we are, and we pitch that tent against the sky. What we're doing is we're putting that our soul, our essence, against a background of being able to go anywhere we want, do anything we want, and just be anyone we want. So that's when that line comes up. Just you can think of that if you like. I'm going to read the poem twice. First time through, just let it drift through your mind. Second time through, you're going to be going to pass out an exam, and you have to write an essay on what exactly this poem means. Put this design in your carpet. Spiritual experience is a modest woman who looks lovingly at only one man. It's a great river where ducks live happily and crows drown. The visible bowl of form contains food that is both nourishing and a source of heartburn. There is an unseen presence that we honor that gives the gifts. You are water. We're the millstone. Your wind were dust blown up into shape. Your spirit were the opening and closing of our hands. You're the clarity, were the language that tries to say it. Your joy, we're all different kinds of laughing. Any movement or sound is a profession of faith. As the millstone grinding is explaining how it believes in the river. No metaphor can say this, but I can't stop pointing to the beauty. Every moment and place says, put this design in your carpet. Like the shepherd who wanted to pick up the lice off of God's robe and stitch up God's shoes. I want to be in such a passionate adoration that my tent gets pitched against the sky. Let the beloved come and sit like a guard dog in front of the tent. When the ocean surges, don't let me just hear it, let it splash inside my chest. Wow. I can read it again. Spiritual experience is a modest woman who looks lovingly at only one man. It's a great river where ducks live happily and crows drown. The visible bowl of form contains food that is both nourishing and a source of heartburn. And there's an unseen presence we honor that gives the gifts. We're water. You're the millstone. Your wind, we're the dust blowing up into shape. We're spirit. Your spirit. We're the opening and closing of our hands. You're the clarity. We're the language that tries to say it. Your joy, and we're the different kinds of laughing. Any movement or sound is a profession of faith. As the millstone grinding and is explaining how it believes in the river. No metaphor can say this, but I can't stop pointing to the beauty. Every moment says, put this design in your carpet, like the shepherd who wanted to pick the lice off of God's robe and stitch up God's shoes. I want to be in such a passionate adoration that my tent gets pitched across the sky. Let the beloved come and sit like a guard dog in front of that tent. And when the ocean surges, don't let me hear it. Let it splash inside my chest.
Our accompanist, Sue Denouter, is on vacation, so thank you so much to Courtney Orlando for playing in the service this morning. And I also want to thank the one and only Judy Vee for the topic of this morning's service. We have a fellowship auction every February. It's a fundraiser for the congregation, but even more, it's a time to get together and be one another's company. There's always really good food. It's a lot of fun. And one of the items I donate is, if you're the highest bidder, you can tell me what to preach on some Sunday that works for both of us. And Judy was the highest bidder at February's service auction, and this is the topic she chose. So thank you so much for bidding, Judy, and for the topic too. I've never preached this topic as directly as Judy challenged me to preach it this morning, so I'm grateful for that. Our reading this morning is a poem titled Waking, Waking by Jane McCafferty. Your child, in her fat red snowsuit, takes you by the hand in the long white field. Nobody around but crows and some other kid's dirty angel. It is a day you had imagined you'd die for just one more hour of sleep. And now your eyes are washed clean by the red wing of her voice, soaring bravely up through bitter air to reach you with yet another golden question. Does God laugh? You are waking, waking, aware there is no end to waking, that any good life feels brutal, peels sleep from skin until bones creak open like a door in the night, for the light in the eyes of those who need you here in the winter fields, laughing as you tell her yes, yes, God laughs. in the sermon. Several years ago, the Dalai Lama came to speak at Princeton University in a packed fieldhouse event. It was public and popular, and I expected and saw a long line to get in. I lined up and it snaked down the sidewalk before eventually ending up in this grassy square that was created with orange temporary fencing. I found myself waiting in this makeshift common with a bunch of other people at some distance from the field house, and no one was going anywhere. I asked a police officer if she knew whether or not we'd be able to get in, and she said, "Oh, you can go in and see him. The doors are still open and there's plenty of room." I asked her, "Well, why are we all waiting in this little square then?" And she kind of laughed and said, "These are the protesters. They're not here to see him, they're here to protest him." And in my mind flashed a front page picture of yours truly protesting the Dalai Lama. And so I said, I'm not here to protest him. I want to hear him speak. And she said, "Oh, then just get out of the square and go on in." It was on my way out of the square that I saw the many signs clearly protesting the Dalai Lama. It would have been obvious to anyone even moderately awake what was happening in that space. But I guess I was a little distracted, sleepy perhaps, not quite awake enough to avoid accidentally protesting the Dalai Lama on my way in to see him. And yet, while I've never met the man, I have to think that if I told him, "I'm sorry for accidentally protesting you for a few minutes," he'd probably laugh. He seems like the laughing kind. And it was fitting to learn that lesson about the value of being awake at a program led by the leader of Tibetan Buddhism. For his school of Buddhism seeks the enlightenment of all, even when we get it wrong at first and many times after that. Enlightenment, becoming awake, are used similarly in Buddhism to mean becoming aware of the nature of reality, which involves suffering, and the ways to relieve that suffering, which leads to a blissful, free, and peaceful inner state called nirvana. The story is that when the Buddha himself became enlightened in the 6th century BCE, something about him was profoundly different. He looked otherworldly, supremely peaceful, wise and content, and you could see it in his body, in his form. Physically, something about him was very different. The people saw him and asked, "Are you a god?" And he said, "No." Someone else asked, "Are you a reincarnation of a god?" He said, "No." Someone asked, "Are you a wizard or a magician?" And he said, "No." And finally, someone asked, "What are you?" And he replied, "I am awake." I can imagine the questioner then saying, "Yeah, we are too, but we don't look like you. What are you?" And thus began a long life of abstract responses to the queries of the curious who sought to know more about what would become Buddhism. I've long appreciated Buddhist thought and wisdom. The stories are often counterintuitive to me, which I like. The beliefs are complex, which I also like. And during a stretch in my thinking when I thought that no religion had anything to say about suffering that I wanted to hear, Buddhism did, and I appreciated that. But there are no simple answers in Buddhism. Or perhaps it's better to say that simple answers can be made very complex by a lot of Buddhists. Such is very true in our faith as well. And while I'm not a Buddhist, I'm sure I'm guilty of doing that myself, making the simple complex. The more we like something, the more we are tempted to do just that. I say all this to say that I approach Buddhism as an appreciative observer who likes a good story about ethics that takes a turn. And as a friend to several colleagues who know more about it than I do, and as a pastor to several congregants who know more about it than I do, Socrates said in some form that the beginning of wisdom is to know that you don't know everything. And such am I then always at the beginning of wisdom with all things Buddhism. It applies well to life, though, beyond Buddhist thought, this idea of always being at the beginning. I run most mornings early before dawn, and on the mornings when my legs, like the poet, crave more than anything one more hour of sleep, I do pretend that I'm going out for the first time. And when the first few minutes are uncomfortable, I remember that I'm beginning and it'll be different soon. And at the end of a long run, when things are starting to really get uncomfortable, I remind myself that I'm just getting going at all of this. I've been doing this for many years and have run many, many miles, but each moment is a new one. Each step is a first one. Every morning is a beginning, and so I'm always beginning. Every ending is the first ending as well, something to be experienced for the first time as a beginner. Shoshin is the Zen term for this. It means beginner's mind. I learned it in a series of mindfulness meditation classes. It was used there to help us shed any expectations of what we'd experience during 10, 15, 30, or the kind of grueling for me 60-minute meditation sessions. Running for an hour is way easier than meditating for an hour. We were taught to approach each meditation with an open, free, and focused mind, one that was committed to the practice, but not expectant of any particular experience of the practice, especially whatever we experienced last time. No matter how many times we did this, we were to be beginners, which means, among other things, that we should not expect to be any good at all at meditation. Thus, my teacher's response when someone in class said, "I'm not any good at meditation," she said, "Then you're exactly where you should be." The student, a beginner, the teacher, a beginner, all of us beginners, beginning together every single time. The Buddha, when he emerged awake from a 3-day meditation session sitting underneath a Bodhi tree, began teaching and sharing a new set of practices that would eventually have a global reach. It's taught that there were 3 stages to his awakening that can be instructive for us. On the first night, he became aware of the cycle of rebirth, which was far from a new concept. Many Asian and Indian religions include a concept of birth, death, and rebirth, some kind of reincarnation. This was foundational for the Buddha's awakening, probably because it was foundational in many of the belief systems that surrounded him. His awakening started with something very familiar. And it continued there, as on the second night, it's taught that he became aware of the laws of karma, or a sense of what goes around comes around. This is pre-Buddhist as well, part of the air and water of the cultures with which he was familiar. And on the third night leading to his awakening, he came up with the 4 noble truths leading to the Eightfold Path. That's the new thing, the belief system now known as Buddhism. The 4 noble truths have to do with suffering. The Eightfold Path is how to break free from the cycle of suffering, the most emphasized fold of the 8 being meditation. It would emerge that to be a Buddhist is not simply to know stuff or to believe stuff, it's to practice meditation. To be a Buddhist is to meditate like a Buddhist. To be is to do. All of the teachings, all the mind stuff that comes after that. But we're also supposed to do all that without craving. Craving creates suffering, and the whole point is to live a life free of suffering. So just do it without wanting. Practice with no expectations. When it's time to meditate, meditate. And by extension, when it's time to cook, then cook. To work, then work. To walk the dog, walk the dog. To do the dishes, do the dishes. Be in the moment and begin each moment anew. The enlightenment of the Buddha involved a spiritual discipline that built on the received wisdom of traditions that predated him. And from there, that became a system of how to live lives free or less burdened by suffering. And for some Buddhists, this kind of remained and remains a very inner practice and process. It's aimed at creating a sense of inner peace that is learned, reliable, and built upon through contemplation and frequent retreat from all distractions. And one's inner state of peace has an effect on the world, but it's not intended to infect the world. It's kind of an aggregate blessing of peacefulness created by people just being peaceful. However, another approach is that of engaged Buddhism, which actively seeks to apply the principles of Buddhism to worldly concerns of violence, injustice, inequality, and increasingly environmental degradation. In our lingo, engaged Buddhism is the kind of social justice Buddhism. It includes this relational ethic that disallows one to not experience suffering when someone else has experienced suffering, especially when that suffering is due to poverty, injustice, violence, greed, really any social sin. Thus, for the engaged Buddhist, enlightenment is rooted in a spiritual practice, meditation, and deepened by study and contemplation, and experienced by the cessation of suffering beyond the self in the shared world, in all our relations. All Buddhists are not supposed to cause suffering for anyone, but the engaged school tries to bring non-suffering to people in places where it exists for any reason. The engagement is through the use of Buddhist teachings and practices and sometimes activism to alleviate social and shared suffering. This can be seen more broadly in the often observed distinction between the spiritual and the religious. The spiritual is of the self, the religious is of the many. The spiritual journey is for one, the religious journey is for the group. The spiritual is the me, and the religious is the we. And the difference is all about relationality. The spiritually inclined has to remember to be part of a group sometimes, and the religiously inclined has to remember their own spiritual lives sometimes. In excess, both approaches become shallow idols of the self or of the tribe, but balanced, they can help us grow in depth and relationship. Enlightenment in our faith is somewhere in this same intersection of engagement with our values and relationality. In Unitarian Universalism, our shared values are described by qualities that we express in the world in all of our relations. We shape the world with our values, which we view as blessings upon which the beloved community can be built. We speak to their value in our own lives and lift them up in diverse, sacred, and secular source to show how lives in a world centered in love can bless everyone, everywhere. And we apply those values specifically to areas where love lacks, where injustice reigns, where greed grips the conscience of one or many, and the rest suffer of want and neglect. Enlightenment, awakening in our faith, is to the elementally interconnected nature of life, including the suffering of which Buddhism tries to make sense, but also of all of life. Our histories, our futures, and our lives of this moment are all woven together in peril and promise, in glory and some days in gore. We see this every day and across generations, and our ethic then becomes to alleviate the awful and build the good however we can, to ease loneliness and build community however we can, to listen and share instead of shriek and blame however we can. We are a faith of collective enlightenment, not of uniform experience, expression, or devotion, but of unity of cause and effect in the world. Our enlightenment is relational, like in some ways the Buddha's, whose enlightenment did not come and then he went off to live by himself and be peaceful and no one ever heard from him again. No, he achieved enlightenment and then he went out and engaged the world. The first Buddhist act was to meditate for 3 days under a tree and figure out life. The second was to go tell people about it. I don't expect to ever meditate for that long, nor do I expect to ever really figure out life. Most days, it's hard enough to figure out dinner. But that inner practice and outer engagement is where the enlightenment that we can expect lives. Not a once in a lifetime mystical experience that makes us glow before others with holy essence, although I love the story, but a daily moment of prayer or quietude, of meditation or reading, of a walk in the fresh air, to center oneself in peace and gratitude before moving into a world with the blessings that can ease suffering and build on the good collectively. Our awakening comes through that same balance as the Buddha, inner and outer, of one and many, spiritual and religious, devotion in prayer and a devotedness to the common good. That's where this sacred is. It's in the everyday. It's in the moments alone when a certain peace is known, and in the belly laughs between friends and an old memory shared again. It's at the banquet table of plenty and the cardboard box of little. It's in the musical note and the silence that follows. It's in the Dalai Lama and those protesters outside and the officer and those of us inside listening, hoping for just a moment of inspiration. And it's in all of these in equal measure, no less to the mighty than to the many, no less to one than to all. The holy lives in each and brings dignity to everyone and makes all worthy of love and justice and freedom. Enlightenment in our liberal, relational, changing faith is knowing this again and again, awakening to this sacred relationality again and again, not just that we may know it, but that we may live in accord with its demands of us, that we may live in its discipline of care for neighbor and stranger, that we may live freely for one another's freedom, meditating, praying, and acting ourselves anew, not toward one enlightenment, but to a lifetime of those experiences. a lifetime of awakenings that each time helps us grow deep in wisdom and wide in love and stronger in relationship. May it be so, and amen. And at the end of our hour, we extinguish our chalice, knowing that its light stays with us until we gather again. Go forth grateful for the moments before you, the breath within you, the people among you, and the Spirit guiding you toward lives of love and kindness. And go forth knowing that you are held always and always with everyone else by that great love of no beginning and never ending. Go in peace, and amen.